This all the way down, this all the way up. It's easier on the back. You're using your front stomach muscles.
You got a six-pack?
Oh, I don't even have a one pack.
Well, you'd have to have a two-pack, because I don't think you could just have one.
It's like it's like drywall. It's just
it is.
flat and white. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not a belly.
Is your wife suggesting anything?
Well, my wife is in fantastic shape. I'm not just saying because of camera. She's in the best shape of her life. So I'm feeling a little guilty. So I'm not in that shape.
I'll go back to what I said. Is she suggesting?
Subconscious. Okay.
Because sometimes you can feel, when my wife works out, or she says, I'm going to go for a run or lift things, and I go, okay, see ya.
Yeah.
I don't feel guilty.
I don't feel guilty, but I think I should keep pace.
Yes. But she's got to catch up to me. Because I'm already,
All right.
I am Rip City. Rip. Are you still a pastor?
Yeah, I'm still ordained. I still am ordained, and still I will officiate a wedding here and there. In fact, I'm officiating a wedding this summer of one of our coaches, one of our young coaches who we've become very close. So I still enjoying. I probably do officiate one wedding every 2 or 3 years. I really enjoy doing that. It's a lot of fun.
What if one of your players asked you?
I would absolutely do it. I would absolutely do it.
What's the charge on that, though, Coach?
No charge.
Oh, no charge.
Actually, I shouldn't say that. Actually, I hope you wouldn't mind me saying this, but when Andrew got married, I didn't officiate the wedding, but I had to, because he got married out of the country, Chris Ballard and I actually served as witnesses, and I had to sign a document here back in the States. It had to be signed by an ordained minister, and I signed that document. So that's a real privilege.
What do you know about the start of the season?
Not much. I mean, it's changed a couple times. So my mindset and our mindset when I talk to the team is, hey, we're assuming we're starting training camp on time. We're assuming we're playing all our normal schedule with fans in the stadium. We all know things could change or adapt. So we'll be ready for that. Just know, players, that we as coaches have plans for all of that. We know how to adjust and adapt. I want the players to feel confidence, that, hey, no matter what they get thrown at them, we've thought about every scenario. We have schedules for everything. We've talked it through. Chris Ballard and I talk day and night about this stuff. And coaching staff. So we're ready, but our mindset is we're playing ball start week one.
And I also think it's beneficial. Philip knows the system. He's worked with you and Nick, so he knows that system, and that's where you can hit the ground running. I love your draft. Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, but I love Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman just is a football player, and I don't know which one of those two do you feel like will be able to contribute more right away?
That's a great question. I mean, like, history and stats would tell you it's a little bit harder for receivers to have an impact early on. But I think, and this is one of the reasons we like Michael, he's got a physical and emotional maturity about him that we think he can come in and make a more immediate impact than most receivers do. And so, and obviously we think Jonathan can come in and make a big impact as well. So we feel really good about both of them.
Phillip Rivers, you bring him in. I know it's a one-year deal, but I see reports that, it's one, and then how does Phillip feel after 1 year? Is that fair assessment of the future at quarterbacking position?
Yeah, it's absolutely fair assessment. And, we have all the respect in the world for him, and he's had an unbelievable career. And we know he's 38 years old, going to turn 39 during this season. So it's number one, how does he feel? But, he knows this. It's number two is how does he perform? And of course, we think he's going to perform lights out, which is why why we sign him and why we're paying him the money that we're paying him. I know him very, very well. I know his body movements. I know his arm strength. I know his arm motion, that unique arm motion that he has. And as I watched his film from the last couple of years, I've seen no diminishing skills physically. So we're very excited about having him as our quarterback this year.
Do you know how many kids Phillip has?
It's hard to keep count.
Okay.
I think he's had a couple more, but he's got 9. There's 11 in the family, at all 9 children. And everything you see and hear about Philip, right, in that regard about family, it's all true. I mean, it's fun. In San Diego when we were together, I was at his house with his family, with his children, playing in the backyard, playing football in the backyard with his kids. It's a family first mentality there. It's fun to be around.
I had Mike Vrabel on recently, and I said, did you guys do a drive-by on Tom Brady? And he said, yeah, we looked at everybody here. How close did you get to, interest in Tom Brady?
Yeah, it was the same thing. We looked at everybody. That's our job. I mean, and Chris Ballard, I thought, did a phenomenal job. And he and I, especially at every position, but at the quarterback position. And, we, like we said from the beginning, we love Jacoby Brissett. So we looked at every option. We talked through every option. And we thought Philip Rivers was a guy for us. It was a unique connection that myself and Nick Sirianni and Jason Michael we've all coached with Philip before. We knew Philip knows our system. The language is still pretty much the same. There's a few things that have changed. Philip was the right guy for us.
Where do you keep your Super Bowl ring from the Eagles?
It's in a safe deposit box.
Have you brought it out to show the players?
I have not. We talk about, it's an interesting question, Dan, and I have Coach Peterson was gracious enough to get all the coaching staff a replica Lombardi trophy. And one of the things that I've talked to our players about is, man, the ring is awesome. It's awesome to hold that trophy, to kiss the trophy, take pictures with the trophy. But in my experience, what's even better than the trophy, what's better than the ring, what's better than the money that you get for winning that is looking your teammates in the eye and saying, we stinking did it. We are the best in the world. We are world champions. That's a shield that you wear the rest of your life. That's worth more than anything to me, to look at your teammates and know we wanted to climb the top of this mountain, and it's the hardest mountain to climb in sports, and we did it together.
I'm fired up, ready to run through a wall right now, Coach. That wall right behind you, that dry wall.
Yeah, it's a plain wall.
Pablo in Colorado joins us. Hey, Pablo.
Hey, Dan. Pablo, Colorado, 6'2" and 230.
Okay.
Hey, DP, got a special request. My daughter's name is Jessica K. Mendoza, and she just graduated from Colorado State University in sports broadcasting. And as you can imagine, it's a really interesting time to be coming out of college and looking for work in this field. And I just would love for you to give her a word of encouragement here, Dan.
Is she there?
She's not, but I'm going to send her the podcast, my friend, unless you have a better idea.
All right. Well, I'll see if I can come up with something. But congratulations to you, too, as well, Pablo. Jessica, get ready for a long haul and get ready to hear the word no. But if you really want to do this, then you'll persevere, because there's so many people who want to do this. And there is no direct route into this business. There are a lot of opportunities, but there's no direct, if you do this, then you get a job. It just doesn't work that way. And just because you have that degree, that doesn't mean that puts you higher up on the priority list. It's what you do as an intern. Volunteer for everything, anything. Get your foot in the door. Once you're in the door, and the reason why I say this is just take what I have here. We have about 12 employees, I think, here. And that's everybody, technical people. The director we have, Dylan was getting us breakfast a couple of months ago. And that's what he would do. That was one of his main jobs, is just getting breakfast. He was in the door, and now he is working with the big German, and he does graphics for the telecast on YouTube. He doesn't have to get breakfast anymore. Tyler, the moderator, wasn't, he was doing things, odd jobs behind the scenes. Now he moderates Chat Row. So you have to be in the building to hear about these things, or people get to see your personality, your work ethic. That's really important nowadays. But volunteer. Don't have your hand out saying, I want to get paid. We have an intern, Rob. Rob has learned everything from shooting, using the camera, sound, even being a director if we need him. And he just volunteered. That's what you need to do, because this business is so competitive, and you have to do something that separates you from everybody else. or as many people. It's a process of elimination. You're all here, and then what do you do that separates you from these people and then separates you from that next level? Those are the things. The guys that I have here, Seton, when he started out and where he is now, a big difference. McLovin just came up. He was blogging about the show, and then he became an on-air talent. If you make yourself irreplaceable, that's the important part. Or somebody says, I got to have you on the staff. Those are the really important things. And you're going to get down in the dumps. But don't allow yourself to get down in the dumps. Just understand we all heard the word no, or you're not good enough, or you need more experience. Keep in mind, also, my boss at ESPN said I'm just bleeping talent and didn't say the word bleep and said something else. So this is at the peak of my popularity at ESPN and SportsCenter, and I was told you're just bleeping talent. I was told by one of my bosses at ESPN, another one who said, you won't get another job if you leave ESPN. It's during contract talks. If you leave, you won't get another job. These are my bosses who say this. And this is where I'd already been successful. So you're going to need pep talks, and you're going to need people around you who can understand this and tell you that. Because don't give up if you really want to do this, because that'll separate you from a lot of other people. We know Brady can handle the pressure. I want to know about the other players on the team, because now you're expected to do something. Not we hope you do something, we're expecting you. How different is that going to be for this young team?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really different. I mean, when you have an iconic quarterback, there's just not many of these guys around, right? And so the standard changes, right? If these guys were going to get up and go to the beach with their girlfriends instead of working out, well, now they're not going to do that. I mean, they found out just in the walkthroughs that he's had with them and the practices that it's a different level. And you're on national TV 5 times. That's happened here, never. And so, I think that gets your attention as well. So they do have a good nucleus of football players. This was a team that was 7-7 at one point. The quarterback, we know, threw a lot of games away. The defense got better. So they should have high expectations. They got the greatest quarterback of all time.
Was that an official workout yesterday, Rick, by the Buccaneers?
No, it wasn't official, Dan. The backstory of that is that it was Operation Shoeless Joe Jackson, as you know, is what we called it. And I met my reporter and photographer. We put on the black jumpsuits and ski masks, and and then out of the palmettos came Tom Brady. Now, it was just a good old-fashioned stakeout. I mean, it had been out there for a couple of weeks that they were working out at a local high school. It was just hard to get a vantage point, and so we knew when it was happening. And good for us, we got the pictures.
Is it legal? I mean, you're open. Florida's open for business, so this isn't an issue. Is this an issue with the NFL?
It doesn't seem to be, at least yesterday. I mean, here's the key, right? The state opened a little while ago, but if you listen to, I've known about it since before Mother's Day, and Cam Bright, who was interviewed by Alex Killorn on his doc one day, a Lightning forward, said that he'd been working out with Brady for a couple of weeks. I mean, virtually. So who's to say, how long this has gone on? But I can document one day. And as far as that goes, the state was open, so they're good with it.
That improvisational skill doesn't work in the NFL, right?
Yeah, that's what everybody said until that guy in Baltimore showed up or Mahomes showed up in Kansas City. But people have been doing it. Go back to the cyclical part of what we talked about in the ebb and flow of the game. And I've always have wondered, when you look at some of the greats that played in the past, is how good would Roger Staubach be?
I bring it up all the time, Coach.
Offenses.
I do. Yes.
Him and the other one that I always look at, and I never saw him play to see the highlights, would have been Sammy Baugh, who led the NFL in passing, punting, and interceptions in one season. I mean, you get some of those multi-athletic guys that can do a ton of things, and they would flourish. But Roger Staubach's the one that I think, him or Fran Tarkington back in the day and what he did, that was what his whole game was. And you're talking about 2 Hall of Famers that would have been there's certain guys, and Dan, that are generational players that could play in any type of system. Yeah, and most of the time, us as coaches will screw them up,
Well, I just remember seeing Roger Staubach at Navy, and then he goes to the Cowboys, and keep in mind, he had his military commitment. So he comes in, and what was he, 29 when he got to the NFL? And I just found him to be, that was that dual threat where he was really he could beat you with his arm and beat you with his legs. And he was just a great, great athlete.
He was, and I was growing up during that era and loved guys like that. There was a guy, Bobby Douglas, at the Chicago Bears, that was that running type quarterback. Here when I grew up in New England, you had Steve Grogan. I think he's the last quarterback to ever wear a horse collar. I remember those days. He had the big old neck roll on the top.
Yes.
It was interesting. It was interesting. But as I said earlier, I've had guys tell us when we invented the spread, which we didn't invent, we all learned it from other people, that people were running shotgun 5 wides in the 50s and winging it all over the places, the Bobby Lanes and the Dutch Myers of the world. So this game just keeps evolving. But it's so fun to watch those guys play because it's the unscripted plays that I think are the ones that we always go back to when we remember, in the back of our minds.
How badly did Johnny Manziel break your heart?
I don't know if it broke our heart. We loved him. The unique thing about that recruiting experience was that we had Johnny and Marcus Mariota in the same camp. And we were the first to offer Marcus, and we were the first to offer Johnny as a quarterback. And they were both committed, but I'll give him credit. He was always honest. He wanted something closer to home. He wanted something. And when he got it and he got the opportunity from Coach Sherman at the time at A&M, he took it. But our fallback plan was pretty good.
Yeah. But how great was Manziel
he went on
in
to
high
win
school?
the Heisman also. So I think I thought he was phenomenal. I remember, and we were asked the question last year at Pac-12 Media Day, who's the best high school football player you saw? And that's a loaded question. But the one thing that flashed in my mind is there was a play when we were watching his highlight tape where he took off and went 90 yards for a touchdown. And they were called back for an illegal formation. And the ball backed up 5 yards. They ran the same exact play, and he went 95 for a touchdown. And it was almost like, okay, we'll do this too. But he was much what he did at A&M. If you ever maybe go to YouTube, and I don't know if they're there, you watch some of his high school highlights, and they were phenomenal.
Where do you think offense is in 5 years? What does offense look like?
I think there's a give and take between the NFL and the college game. Things go up and things go down. But I just think there's more passing that's happening at both levels. You look at the success LSU had with Joe Burrow and in the offense that Brady brought in from the Saints, and people, it's a copycat league, and this sport's always been a copycat league. And I've heard this statement, and I really believe it. If you weren't in the room with Amos Alonzo Stagg and the group that invented this game, then you stole your ideas from somebody. So there's not an original idea in football right now. People were running 5 wides shotgun. Dutch Myers did it in 1950, and then the game comes full circle. And the game of tempo, Sam Weish did it unbelievable in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills and the K-gun in the 90s, then it took off in college game. But I think it's a little bit more wide open. I think because of the athletes and the width and length of the field, you have to use it all. And how do you use that is by spreading people out and throwing the football. But something will come cyclical, and there'll be a team that shows up that's just pounding the rock and running it down your throat, and then everybody will say that's it. But I think just what LSU did last year will lead, I think, a little bit more teams to kind of opening up their passing game.
Well, that's why when I saw the Titans, and their philosophy was that we're going to run, and then Ryan Tannehill will sprinkle in some passes, and we'll play good defense. I don't know if we get, it's counterintuitive to what is being successful now, but I don't know if the running back comes back in vogue.
It's tough because I think a lot of it is what's available. It's like economy, it's supply and demand, and a ton of guys are playing wideout, and not a lot of guys want to play running back anymore. I don't think, if you want to find a unicorn in the world, look for a fullback in this country. They don't have them. No one's playing with them, and where are they? So if you want to run that type of offense, what do you do and what are you looking for? And then I think there's something to be said about being the contrarian now is lining up in a couple tight ends and pounding the football on people because people aren't used to that. When I left college football in 2012 to go to the NFL, we were the only team that was spread out and had shiny helmets. And when I came back 2 years ago, everybody in college football does. And so But it's an up and down thing, Dan. I mean, you look at what Stanford does. You look at us. We're a multiple tight end team just because we inherited a bunch when I got here, and it has been successful for us. But when I talked, our tight end was drafted in the 3rd round this year. He's the 2nd tight end off the board, Devin Asiasi by the Patriots. And when Coach Belichick and Bill called me about him, he said there aren't a lot of tight ends out there. And I think a lot of guys that think they're that are tight ends are playing wide receiver. So it's interesting, and I think it's fun to watch the ebbs and flows of the game and where it goes. But we still are just trying to get a first down and try to get some points.
What do you know now about this upcoming season?
This is what I know. I know that the people who say don't know, and the people who know don't say. So I think, we had a meeting with our chancellor yesterday and all the head coaches here, and he's extremely hopeful. But his quote, and I thought it was a great thing, is the North Star that will guide all of us is the health and safety of the students. And that has to be first and foremost. And it was funny when this first went down, and we had a staff meeting again at UCLA, and we were just in the stages of, we're not going to have any fans at the spring sports. It was the week they were getting ready. They canceled the NCAA basketball tournament, but it hadn't happened yet. I think it was that Wednesday. Things hadn't fallen yet. And our volleyball coach, John Sparrow, brought up a great point. He said, how many people here would get on a cruise ship right now?
Yeah.
And no one raised their hand. And he said, isn't a dorm just a cruise ship that doesn't float? And then we all kind of said that was the reality of what was going to hit, and that was 8 weeks ago. And I think we've had 8 weeks to work on testing. We've had 8 weeks to kind of go through this. All 50 states are in some version of reopening right now, but what happens over the next 8 weeks, I think, is really what's critical, especially to our sport. And really, we need to be back probably 8 weeks from now. We need to be back by July 20th or so if we're going to open the season on time. And so there's still plenty of time in there. It's just you got to defer to the experts in this. We're about first downs and stopping people, and have nothing to really understand what's going on in this. And as Lee Corso told me, I talked to Coach a couple of weeks ago, is the game of football is not worth one person's life. So we better make sure we got this right before we get back.
Could you teach what Brady does?
No, well, I think you can teach a system to him, but the most amazing thing about Tom Brady to me is just his discipline as a human being. He works out at our place in when he's in Los Angeles. And our place is open to NFL guys anytime after 11. And I think all the guys know that. So they'll come over and use our facility. Every time Tom wants to work out at our place, I'll get a text message from the night before. Chip, this is Tom Brady. I'm like, I have your number in my phone. Is it okay if I come over and work out? And he's there at 7 a.m. and he's working out with Tom House, his quarterback guy. And I remember just looking at him. It was, last year was the middle of April, and he's working on his front foot plant. And there's a guy who's won 6 Super Bowl championships, and he's looking at his foot plant and his relationship to his elbow and his hip as it comes through, and getting feedback from Tom House, and then kind of trying to get in his mind what exactly that felt like. And you talk about someone that's that much of a stickler and that disciplined as a human being, to be working on the little things. And I think those are the things that people don't see, on Sundays. Just the work ethic and the time that he puts in. And so can you replicate that discipline? I don't know. There's very few people in the world that have that type of discipline.
Todd, what did you learn on today's program?
Coach Reich, with the Colts still an ordained minister, will be officiating a wedding this coming summer.
Yeah, he's got to do something with his background there, backdrop behind him, and Zoom. McLovin.
Chip Kelly says that Tom Brady texts him and says, "Hi, it's Tom Brady."
It does sound like what Tom Brady would do. Seton O'Connor Jr. III.
He's the pride of Mississippi, Harold
Ascrack. Paulie, what'd you learn?
Huge day for the Ascrack family yesterday.
What we learned, brought to you by LegalZoom. No matter what happens, you want to make sure your loved ones are taken care of. That's why LegalZoom has made it easy to set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. Take care of your family today with the right estate plan at LegalZoom.com. Been a lot of fun. Thanks for the phone calls, emails, tweets. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show.